extent of the ADO.NET 2 code you got, or ADO.NET code that you have to write. All right, it makes it much simpler than getting down into the nitty-gritty details. So this is the whole concrete data interface to the SQL Server, and you'll have a very similar one for Oracle or MySQL or whatever you want. So now let's hop up a level and look at the abstract provider. It's in this components folder. It's called Data Provider, and very simply, what's in here are the abstract methods must override for each of those function calls down below. All right, it's all it is in here. So this abstract data provider just gives you the generalized interface, all right, that you're gonna implement the next level up. So that's the bottom two levels of the application. So the one project down below and this data provider file. This set of files now in the middle here are the business logic layer. And what those consist of is pairs of files like suggestion info, suggestion controller, suggestion type info, suggestion type controller. So if we look at what's in there, basically you have a set of private members, which are the fields that come out of the database for this function. You have some constructors for building it. In this case, there isn't anything. And then the properties themselves. So basically, this is just a business object. Okay, this is just a representation of what's, in this case, it's the suggestion data itself. Okay, that you're going to display to the user. And at the bottom, okay, and there's two things to explain at one time here. But iHydratable basically is one of those. It's an optional interface that you can implement. It's got a method and a property. The method is called fill, and the property is called key ID. So you just have to identify, and this has to be an integer value. You identify which field in your in this data set is your key, or which you're gonna get your data from. And then the fill method, and I'm using this particular data structure for two different things in this module, and that's why there's a case statement here. So basically what you're going to do is manually copy the data that comes from the data set, or the data reader that comes back from the database, into your business object. Okay, so this is the manual way of doing it. And you do this for performance. You don't have to implement iHydratable if you're not really worried about that. So you can, if you've got a big data structure here, what happens otherwise, there's this thing called a CDO, which is a custom business object. And it uses reflection to go through and figure and match up the fields that come through from the data reader into your business object. So it reflects through and figures out what all the fields are and fills them automatically for you. So you don't have to write any code to get data from the database into your business objects. These CDOs do it for you. iHydratable is simply a way of getting better performance out of the system if you don't mind writing this stuff. So this is the business object. It's just the data. Okay. So if we look then at the other half of this thing, which is the suggestion controller, this is where the actual code is called to fill it. Okay. So the public method here. So here's all of our methods again, add suggestion, and you'll see that in this case it just says dataprovider.instance.addSuggestion, all right, because it's going out. In the case of get suggestion, you can see here cdo.fillObject. Okay, and what's coming back is the suggestion info object that we just looked at. All right. So when you call get suggestion, it fills your business object, and it does it by calling cdo.fillObject. So by default, what happens is CDO still does one piece of reflection. It just says, does that business object support iHydratable? If not, it uses reflection to fill the fields. If it does support iHydratable, it calls your fill function, your fill method. All right, so you have an option now to fill manually for performance. And then you can see here there's a cdo.fill collection. In this case, I'm bringing an array list back. I want the data in a slightly different way. So you got lots of options for how your data comes back. Oops. Okay. So then that's the business object layer. So you can build as many of these as you need. All right, I built one for getting the types, the suggestion types that I added, because I got to be able to fill those into a drop-down list. I've got one for suggestion display. That's the data that gets bound to that grid at the bottom of the display module that lists all the suggestions out there. The suggestion info itself is the suggestion data, the actual suggestions data. And then I got a suggestion ID controller. Right? And that's a special one that's required for the search interface. So the iSearchable interface actually implements, and in fact, I need to show, okay, optional interfaces, sorry. So I almost forgot this to talk about this. I know we're over time already. So if you want to go to lunch, I won't be upset, but I'm going to keep going for a few minutes just because I think we need to get through the little bit of code that's left. So we eat pizza very quickly. So if you implement iSearchable, which is on the definition of your module, there's one function called getSearchItems. And what that does is basically it will go through using your suggestion controller and basically just loops through them and creates search items which contain whatever specific data you want. Okay, so in DNN when you search for an item, it kind of returns a Google-looking list of you got a title, you've got a link, and you've got a little description. So what you're doing in this search item info, you're filling the search item info block with the data in any format that you want, how you want your data returned, how you want, what fields you want indexed, and all that kind of stuff. It's up to you to decide. I just put some fields out there. Like I tag in a little piece of string in there, suggestion ID equals, so that it shows up in the search, results, so you can tell what you're looking at. All right, it's up to you to what goes in here. Right? That's the iSearchable, and then import and export. So the iPortable interface has two methods. One is called export module, the other is called import. All right, so I didn't get far enough down yet. The other is import module, and all you're doing here is you're creating an XML file, all right, which contains the data that's in your module. So you can see here, I start with a root element of suggestion data, and I write suggestion types out. So all the types that the user created, that the admin created, get listed out, and then the suggestions themselves get listed, the details of the suggestions. And then the import module just does the other thing. It just reads the XML file and populates the local database with that suggestion data. Now there's a caveat here. Every item that's added to the list gets obviously the data that's in there, but it also tracks who entered the item. All right, if you remember when I showed the portal, the module that was being viewed there, I guess I got to log in as administrator. Anyway, it shows the username who entered it. All right, the problem is that user may not exist if you export the data from this portal and import it to this other portal. That user probably doesn't exist over here. So you could do some stuff like trying to match usernames and all that kind of stuff, but it gets real ambiguous. So you'll see in my implementation, all I did was when you import the module on the other end, the user is the user who's importing the data. It's assigned to all the suggestion entries. And you have to deal with things like that, obviously, because the keys are not the same between the databases, the users are not the same between, you have to deal with that kind of stuff. Again, as a module developer, you got to worry about all that junk. Okay.
How do you handle master detail?
You deal with it. Yeah, you just deal with it. What you literally will probably do is build a little local key structure, and then as you're populating the table over there, you just have to keep track of those local keys that you define to make sure that, as you add each one, you get its key back, and you make sure that the child gets it. You probably haven't code like that before, but you have to deal with that.
Well, that's your own.
That's your thing. As a module developer, you got to deal with all that messy stuff. Okay, so that's the business logic layer. What's left is the user interface layer. So we're going to look here very quickly at the settings, for example. Let's just look at the designer for settings. This is the settings for the module where I added the suggestion types, and I could, so there's that suggestions page. Okay. If we look at the source side of this, you'll see that what I've done here is I've added a class to every element. All right, like these are the titles that are listed down the left side. All right, they're all called subhead. Now you can create any CSS class names you want here. Okay, but you typically want to try to use the ones, and the book goes through this in detail, the ones that kind of are the DNN standard ones, but you can create custom ones for the module so the user can, so this way if you use subhead and the user changes the subhead style for the entire site, your module updates as well.